Now we spent quite a bit of time preparing this wood from the main stump. As you can see, this has been cut. It's actually been cut by a chainsaw. Now they wouldn't have had that 500 years ago, but actually we do have cross-cut saws, but I'm getting a bit old to be cutting that by myself, and it would take hours to do. But if you want to do that, do it fully the right way, go ahead and do it. Now what we've also done is to trim off some of the additional wood at the side that we don't need. Now we're making a 15 centimeter Kuksa Bowl, 15 centimeter diameter Kuksa Bowl, so we don't need this additional material, and any additional material that you don't need in your bowl you should remove, because doing it manually will take a long time. Now we use this tool here, the axe, for a lot of our work, and we just go ahead and do a little bit of splitting off down there, the edges and the sides that we've been splitting away with the wood splitter, just getting a little bit, that's it, a little bit trimmed up. So the amount of material that we can remove at this stage is all good stuff. Now we've got to remember with axes, never put them down on metal tables or anything near metal. Always put them down on wood. I've got a little stool back here. But never leave them resting on your raised chopping block, because that's a recipe for disaster. You can knock it off and cut your foot. Now what we've also done is to split out the pith. Now if you leave the pith, which is right in the center of the wood, if you leave the pith, it will act as a focus for cracking and splitting. So it's really essential that you remove the pith first. We've split that out with a splitting tool. So that was one of the first things to go. And what is left is a fairly clean surface. We've got some material here we need to just clean up, and I'm going to do that with the axe. Here we go. So I'm just planing away. You'll notice that my hand here is totally out of the way from the path of the axe, and that is a principle that you use throughout any wood carving. You must always keep your hand away from the path of the axe and avoid raising it above the job, and definitely nothing like this with your hands dangling down onto the path of the axe. It's a recipe for disaster. Don't do it. So here we are. I'm just planing it off a little bit, getting rid of some of a little bit of imperfections, and trying to get as flat a working surface as possible before we start. Like so. Noticing any splits in the wood here, we'll try and avoid them when we do the marking out, which I'll just show you in a minute. But at the moment we're just getting it as clean as possible, and we're going to decide on where we're going to put the bowl, and where we're going to put the handle of the bowl. Because if you've ever seen Kuksa bowls or cups, you'll know that they have a little handle, a little fishtail handle, which the nomadic peoples, the Sami people, used to tie a leather strap onto as a carrying strap. So we're going to decide which surface. Are we going to go for the surface in the heart, or are we going to go to the surface on the outside? This is the outside here. This is the bark side of the wood that I'm planing away now. See, it's a terrible split here, so we definitely want to avoid that. So the head of the cup is going to be here. But I'm beginning to think that I would like to put the top of the bowl, the rim of the bowl, on this side, the side of the bark. So there are all these little decisions that you need to make when you're preparing your wood. So what I'm going to do now, just placing my axe down very carefully here on this table behind me, is going to start marking out, okay? Now from the side from away from the crack, which is this, we're going to put the head of the bowl. It's not quite 14 centimeters, but I think we might try and prep that down to 15 centimeters, because I just think it's going to work better if we work from the side, to be honest. So just planing it off with the blade like this. With any luck, well, we will try and we'll work around this crack. What we found is that you've really got to work with your piece of wood. It's not something out of B&Q. So you just got to work with what you've got. That's just about fine. 7. Let's just place that at 14 centimeters and have done with it, because I really think this bowl is better off going that way as around, to be honest. I really do. So just drawing a nice center line down the wood here is part of the start of marking out. Maybe let's just keep it to the center of the wood itself rather than to force it. And just draw a nice center line right down the middle like that. Now from there we then mark out the bowl, which now of course is going to be 14 centimeters, not 15, and the center point at 7 centimeters. And here we are, we're going to put in our center here, 14 centimeters, there we go. Nice and clear like that. Now what I then do is just use the ruler to mark out the circle of the bowl itself. So I'm just putting it right there at 7.5, 7. I have to remember it's not 15, but it's 14 now. It's 7. I'm just drawing a little tick mark all the way around here, like that. Little tick mark, and a little tick mark there, in the middle, in the middle. There you go, up there. I suppose I could find myself a tin of paint or something, an old tin of paint that is about the right size and so on, but I find it very difficult. The 14 and the 15 centimeter Kuksas are very popular because they're just the right size, and it's difficult to find something the right diameter to draw around, just lying around. So I found that this method is the surefire method of getting the diameter of Kuksa that you want. Right, so what we've done now, because this is like, you know, we're supposed to be working in a woodland here, a forest, and you know, things are a little bit rough and ready, and just get the hairy lines, as I call them, and just sketch them in like that around here. There you go, around here, watching that you don't drop the piece of wood on your foot. Just draw the hairy lines as best you can around to give you a nice circle for the starting point of your Kuksa. So, as I say, all the Kuksas have this little fishtail handle, for putting your leather strap on. So what I do is I mark that in here. So I just start out here, 5 centimeters, 2.5 centimeters, 5 centimeter mark here at the top, and that's going to be the top of your handle, as it were. You'll see in a minute what I mean. Then I usually at about 2 centimeters, I make that the dip part of the handle, and then at 6 centimeters is the end of the handle. So it looks like we're going to get rid of a lot of that chipped wood. So in there, in the middle, we like to do about 2 centimeters, 4 centimeters, 3 centimeters. Let's do 3 today. Why not? The waist part, the sort of waistline part of the Kuksa, like that. Here, you'll see in a minute what I mean. And then at the end, I usually make it about 3 centimeters at the end, so the widest part of the fishtail. And then what we do is we just come round here from where we started in here. We come round and we just draw a line like that. And on the other side, we come round, starting about there, come round, and we curve the tail so as it curves around from the bowl straight into the tail, so it curves round, so it sweeps round nicely. And then the back part of the tail sweeping round like that, just checking, because soon gets on the wonk if we're not careful. Yep, so we've gone a little bit wonk there. So it's best to get as accurate as possible at the start. Always try and get as accurate as possible at the start, because that is the lines that you draw now will be the lines that you follow throughout the making of the Kuksa. Okay? So as you see, we've got a nice fishtail handle, a nice round, in this case 14 centimeter Kuksa bowl. And then what we're going to do is we're going to mark out the material that we're going to remove from the Kuksa before we start. Now, making bowls and cups and spoons, it's all about doing things step by step, because if you had a machine, you could simply put it in a bandsaw and cut all the way around this. Now, you can't do that manually with just an axe. So what you've got to do is remove pieces of material step by step. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this material here and this material here, leaving this sort of Star Trek, I like to think about it, Star Trek Enterprise in the middle. Now what we're also going to do is going to cut off some of the material here at the end. Now I like to get everything nice and lined up and ready before I start. So I like to get it all squared away like that. Right, so what we've done, we've got our Star Trek Enterprise in there, as you can see, and we're also going to cut off these end parts. So we reduce the material that we have to carve later on right from the start. So step by step process.